Hello, welcome to Book Talk, and this is your host, Anthony Morore. And as always, we have some guests who are going to talk to us about their book. And today we are very lucky. We have a very great guest with a very important topic for us today, whose name is none other than Ted McLyman. And he's with us here. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Anthony, it's a pleasure to be here this morning, and thank you so much for the time and having me on your program.
Yeah, so uh, Ted is going to speak to us on an issue that is sensitive. Now, first and foremost, let me introduce Ted well. Ted is an entrepreneur. He is an economics instructor, financial advisor, business owner, author, speaker, coach, and trainer. Now, Ted has an experience of over 30 years dealing with money. And so today, Ted is going to speak to us on money. Ted has authored a book, Discover Your Money Temperament. And yes, that's the book. And that's what we are going to be dealing with today. But he's going to tell us even much more than what I have just said. So, Ted, can we get to know a bit about yourself?
Sure, it's my pleasure. And welcome to all the listeners,
Yeah.
regardless what time it is, where you are.
Yeah.
But I've been working with people and money my entire professional life.
Okay.
And it took me a while to figure it out, but it became obvious to me about 2008 during the last economic meltdown that we as a culture are not very good at either. We're not really good at understanding people and how they think and act and their behavior. And we're definitely not very good with money.
Yeah.
The level of financial literacy in the United States is abysmal. And just look around at what's going on. But I graduated from Colgate University, didn't have a lot of experience with money, took some economics courses, finance courses, graduated, and I wanted to get out of the Northeast, and I took a commission in the United States Marine Corps. And my first duty station was Hawaii, which was wonderful because if you're not familiar with the Northeast, it's cold and dark and gray, and Hawaii is bright and sunny and has primary colors. And I owned my first pair of sunglasses and sunscreen. It was wonderful.
Okay.
But in Hawaii, as a young officer leading my Marines and sailors, I found that bad money decisions was causing significant problems for us. It was leading to performance problems, retention problems, domestic violence, substance abuse. It just went on and on and on. And as a young officer, I was tasked with trying to get some of this stuff sorted out. And what I found is I had a large group of people that never had really money before. And they had money thrust upon them, and they were doing incredibly crazy things. A lot of debt, buying things they didn't need, et cetera, et cetera. And I started working with that. And it was my first realization that there were cultural differences with money.
Yeah.
There were demographic differences with money. And my perception of money was different than other people's. And it really surprised me. Well, to make a long story short, the Marine Corps sent me to graduate school. And my payback was teaching economics at the Naval Academy.
Okay.
And at the Naval Academy, I found it takes really smart young people to really foul up money to the point. And you've got to understand that these are kids that their college is being paid for. They had no debt. They were actually getting a salary. And some, after being commissioned as ensigns and lieutenants, were getting themselves in incredible money problems. And they were losing their commission. So we were on a panel to start figuring that out. And we, again, it validated that behavior was the issue. Then I went in, built the Marine Corps financial management program, commanded the schoolhouse. And to make a long story short, after a number of traditional Marine Corps experiences, came back from overseas and was an aide to the Secretary of the Navy for financial management. And there I worked with the U.S. House and Senate, their staff and their budget people on money issues and funding issues. And there I found out that it takes the political class to really screw up money. And I'm just picking up these little tidbits as they're going along, and it hit me that money's about behavior. It's not about money. Well,
Okay.
I retired from the Marine Corps and became a independent financial advisor. And over the last 20 some odd years, have worked with hundreds, maybe thousands of people about financial literacy and money and helping them build programs. And there it hit me through trial and error primarily that the mantra for the financial industry is not helping.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they like it or not, the mantra for the industry, it's all about product and service. If you have the
Yeah.
right product, the right service, everything is going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And in most cases, they do ignore or do not acknowledge the impact of behavior.
Okay.
So 2008, I wrote my first book, and it
Yeah.
was primarily for my clients.
Mm-hmm.
It was to get them ready for the pending meltdown, as I saw it, which was the real estate meltdown, when
Okay.
a lot of smart people were doing a lot of dumb things with their money, and we saw the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
It fell apart. And I started challenging what was going on in the financial industry, and I started challenging how we build our practice. So I started moving my practice from a product practice to a behavioral practice.
Okay.
And the impact was amazing. People loved it. Well, my first book had been out for a while, and J. Alexander Martin, one of the founders of the FUBU Corporation,
Mm-hmm.
and his partner, Damon John from Shark Tank, read my book. Damon did and Jay called me up and said he was having some challenges with money. He was doing what his culture and society expected him to do with a young, wealthy person,
Yeah.
and he was burning through money at a unsustainable rate.
Mm-hmm.
He figures he went through about $8 million over about eight-year period trying to impress people he didn't know and they didn't care.
Yeah.
And I mean, give you an example. He was burning between between $5,000 and $8,000 a week just clubbing.
Ah.
That's crazy. But he thought
That's
that was
crazy.
expected
That's
of him.
quite crazy.
And we started talking. And as a result of that, we collaborated on a book about him
Mm-hmm.
called Money Makes Me Crazy,
Yeah.
How I Squandered Millions Building the FUBU Empire. Incidentally, this book is being republished. It should be out at the end of the year. But in that book, I started walking through and explaining Jay's experience with money and
Okay.
why he was doing the things he did.
Mm-hmm.
And then move fast forward. A couple of years ago, I sold my practice and I started doing the writing and the speaking and talking about money behavior. I call it behavioral financial wellness.
Yeah.
I started talking about behavioral financial wellness full time. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because I got very frustrated with the industry, with our culture. And basically what it is, you've got behavioral people on one side talking about how you believe, you got money people over here, and they're not talking to each other. And I said, we've got to change this.
Yeah.
So what I start talking about is, number one, we've got to understand that we're human.
Yeah.
We're all human.
Mm-hmm.
And that trumps everything. So the book is broken up into two parts, and now you see my background. Anthony, you got any questions on that or how I got to this point?
Thank you very much for the good intro. And some of us have always been thinking that money is the problem. Either I have money or I don't have money. And now you give us a new enlightenment telling us that it's not a matter of the money that you have or don't have, other than it's the behavior that you have upon money. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Quite
And
interesting.
what you just stated is the conventional wisdom.
Yeah.
And the conventional wisdom is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
What we need to understand, and I talk about this, part one of the book is about us as people. Part two is the solution.
Okay.
So I bring up four things in part one. Number one, I say we're not very good with money.
Mm-hmm.
Let's give you an example for your listeners and yourself. Have you ever run into a store to buy something really small, spend a lot more money on stuff you didn't plan to buy, and
Yeah.
then when you get home, remember you didn't get what you wanted to get to begin with?
Mm-hmm.
That's because we're human. We do this all the time.
Yeah.
Have you ever bought anything just on impulse? Never even thought much about it.
Whatever we find on the way shining, we take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you just get into you go someplace new and it's shiny and the smell and the feel is great. And it's just so easy to spend money because that's we're human. So fundamentally, we need to understand that we as humans have a brain biology that is ancient.
Okay.
And it was designed to keep us alive and pass on our genes.
Mm-hmm.
It was not designed to do taxes.
Okay.
figure out complicated money transactions,
Mm-hmm.
figure out whether a lease or purchase is better on a car,
Yeah.
or do long range planning beyond probably Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, but you understand that that basic biology got us to where we are today as a species.
Yeah.
So we've got a brain biology that was designed to keep us alive in the forest as we're crossing the savannah to get something to eat and not being lunch for some other animal in the process.
So we go
Okay.
hunt what we have to hunt today, bring it back home, eat it, and that's all.
Right. And if you don't do it well, you're going to be lunch for somebody else.
Yeah,
That's the way
definitely.
we're wired.
Yeah.
So we have to understand that we've got, and I keep the brain science really, really simple. We've got
Okay.
a feeling brain, we've got a thinking brain. Our
Yeah.
feeling brain is the ancient brain, it's the old brain, it's
Mm-hmm.
primitive, it's
Mm-hmm.
fast,
Yeah.
it's automatic.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps us alive, it keeps our heart going, our lungs beating. It's constantly sensing our environment and reacting and adjustment, but you don't have to think about that. Then
Yeah.
we've got our modern thinking brain, which is primarily the frontal cortex,
Mm-hmm.
which is slow and deliberate and analytical and takes time and there's a conflict going on between our feeling brain and our thinking brain.
Yeah.
Our default is our feeling brain because that's where we want to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's comfortable, it's
Yeah.
easy, it
Mm-hmm.
takes no effort, it takes no
Mm-hmm.
energy. But
Mm-hmm.
thinking emotionally is hard. It's not where we naturally like to be. So we want to get in there and get out as quickly as possible, which is not a problem for most of our activity. I
Yeah.
mean, if you were in your thinking brain all day long, you'd never get out of your house
Mm-hmm.
because you go, is it hot out? Is it cold out? What do I wear? What I don't wear? Is this too much? It's not. You'd never make a decision. So we've got to have this balance.
Mm-hmm.
This was not an issue back when you lived on a subsistence farm. You never got out of the neighborhood. Your food was there. Commerce was pretty simple. And to be very candid, longevity was measured in, years, not decades.
Okay.
So we are just not wired well for the dynamics of the modern economy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, our brain, as I said, is ancient. Money's about 2,000, 3,000 years old. Money is a cultural instrument. It reflects who we are to facilitate trade, relationships, and all that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's an invention. And it's different in other places. People have different relationships with it, but fundamentally, we're not too good with money because it's a new thing. So how do you bring this all together? First, you need to understand that we are emotional animals who think. We are not thinking animals with emotions. 95 to 99% of our spending decisions are automatic, spontaneous, they're reactive and non-conscious. Okay.
Emotionally, yeah.
So that's what we are as people. And
Okay.
to make it even more complicated, our belief set with money is well established by mid-adolescence.
Uh-huh.
So that means between 3 and 10, 3 and 11, we start non-consciously developing our relationship with money, which is driven by our peer group and our family and our culture.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of scary. Where you were in middle school or junior high school and what you thought was important about money then is how subconsciously you still think about money. You can change that mindset, but it's hard.
Yeah.
So the driving force now with all of our spending decisions is culture and beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next piece is the rules have changed.
Okay.
What I mean by that is I mentioned the subsistence farm before.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was pretty darn easy. You got
Mm-hmm.
up in the morning, you worked in the fields, you grew your food, you come back, you fixed it and did it again.
Yeah.
And then, a few years ago, you worked for one company, stayed there for 30 some years. When you retired, you had a full traditional retirement plan. You had Social Security, probably no debt. The house was paid for. All the families within walking distance. And longevity wasn't what it was because you smoked and drank a little bit and ate terribly. You're probably going to fall over
Yeah.
somewhere between 65 and 70. So this whole financial planning thing was not that much of an issue.
And
Well, things have
it's
changed.
it's no longer there. That has already changed everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are two game changers we need to realize when we're talking about money. One is
Mhm.
longevity.
Yeah.
The medical community has done a wonderful job of extending our longevity, quality of life, and it's around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So now that opens up a whole new set of problems. My mother-in-law passed away at 103.
Ah, that's good.
My parents passed away in their 90s.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
My dad was retired for over 30 years.
Ah,
Retired.
uh-huh.
Okay. And what we need to understand is the planning factor now is not what are you going to do for the next, to age 75. It's we plan to 100 and 105.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And if you're a female, you have to have a very, very different mindset because you're probably going to be alone for at least a third of your life for whatever reason.
Yeah, yeah. You
Then
mean
we
that
factor,
men always go fast?
yeah. And then the other
And-
reality is the
Mhm,
concept of work has changed.
mhm.
We are now, and I talk about this in the book in chapter 4, that today everybody is self-employed.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't care where
almost.
you work or what you do, you've got to have the self-employed mindset because you're
Yeah.
accountable and responsible for everything you do and fail to do.
Uh-huh.
The traditional safety nets have gone. The
Yeah.
traditional pension,
Mhm.
the extended family now is all over the place. You may
Yeah.
have a non-traditional family with multiple situations going on. Taxes are different.
Mhm.
So it's a completely different ball game. So when you bring that all together, our biology, our belief set, and the new rules of money continually conspire against us in spending situations to make really stupid decisions.
Mhm.
So we should be surprised that we make a good decision, not that we should, the norm should be bad decisions. And that's reflective. Most people do not get money well. I
Okay.
don't know what we're surprised about that. Then we've got the financial community that is in denial about all the things I just talked about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Traditional economics, and that's
Uh-huh.
how I was trained, assumes that we are rational,
Mhm.
that we have perfect information, we will take the appropriate decision for our circumstances, and that
Mhm.
we will not emotionally make decisions based on the input that is given to us without influence of our peers, outside forces, and whatever. And
Yeah.
that's ridiculous.
Mhm.
So that's part one of the book. Does
Okay.
that make sense? Can you see how that's such a
It
problem
does
for
make a
people?
lot of sense. I mean, it does bring a lot of things together and gives a give us as a clearer picture of the of what we
Okay,
are
yeah.
in today, right now.
Now, what's important about this book, though,
Mhm.
it's not a technical book.
Okay.
Okay, I write this in such a way that is written for people that would never buy a book about money but should.
Mhm.
Have never taken a course on economics or finance and should have.
Yeah.
And I build this as a story of an individual going back and forth to a shopping center or a mall and back to work and interacting. And in stories, talk about situations and then put you in that situation and explain what's going on. So I keep it
Mhm.
very, very simple.
Okay.
No math, no graphs, no Wall Street stuff, no product recommendation. It's the front end that you should know before that.
Yeah.
So I define the problem
Mhm.
that you, me, and all of your listeners are just not hardwired to work with money. Well,
Yeah.
not fair. There are a few out there that are, but it's the exception.
Mhm.
So the question next is, what's the solution?
That's what we are always looking for. I mean, we've got the problem, but we need a solution to. I mean, and
Exactly.
yeah,
So
everybody
after
who's
working,
listening,
as
like,
I said,
yeah,
is teaching economics in a formal setting, having a background, working with all kinds of people with money, having been a financial advisor and watching the process,
yeah,
I developed in the book, and this is part 2 of the book, I call it the money behavior system. And it's
okay,
my solution to start taking or making better money choices. And
mm-hmm,
it's based on 5 very simple steps that anybody can do. And if you do it right, you're going to have this aha moment and go, wow, how come nobody's ever talked about this before? It's
okay,
incredibly simple, but it sounds very, very important. And
yeah,
that's the feedback I got from most of my clients because they
mm-hmm,
would come into me and I'd go through the process with them and they go, how come my other guy didn't talk about this? How
mm-hmm,
come I've never heard about this before?
mm-hmm.
Because this is kind of new. Okay, so there are 5
Still
pieces.
waiting.
And let's start with the beginning. The first, I
Okay,
call it money values. Money
right,
values is the most critical piece of the money behavior system. It's actually in
okay,
chapter 5. Money values are simply the most important things in life to you that cost money.
mm-hmm,
And it's different than goals. Goals are stuff. Now, goals reflect your values. So if you go out and want to buy, I mean, the average price of a car right now is almost $40,000.
Yeah.
And if you're going to spend that kind of money on a car, that reflects your values on an automobile. But are those your true values?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I say money values, these are the things that if they don't happen are going to cause you great emotional pain.
Mhm.
For most people, it's legacy,
Yeah.
family,
Mhm.
contributing. And let me give you a story or a quick example. Let's go back to a car again.
Okay.
Now let's use a different, let's use a house.
Yeah.
Okay. Real estate is hot right now.
Mhm.
And you go to your realtor and they usually ask you how much you got to spend. What are the top 3 things that are important to you about a house? And it usually comes in location, good school, and the architecture.
Yeah.
Okay, then I would ask, okay, so what do you want as a good school? We've got these following houses over here. This is the best school system in the area. Let's sign the paperwork. Well, you're missing the point. It should be what's important about a house to you.
Mhm.
Well, I want a place in a good neighborhood. What's
Mhm.
important about a good neighborhood? I want to be safe. What's important about being safe? I want to bring my kids up in an environment that is good for them. I want a good school system where they will thrive. What's important to having your kids thrive? I want them to go out and have the things I didn't have. What's important about that to you? I want them to be successful and financially independent. What's
Yeah.
important about that to you? Well, I
Mhm.
really don't want them coming back and living in my basement. Whoa. We've gone from I want a house in this neighborhood to, in reality, the number one value is having independence for your family so
Security.
you can have a life and they're not coming back. That's
Yeah.
very different than I want a white house.
Mhm.
So I call these big V values. Big V
Okay.
values are those important emotional things that drive you.
Mhm.
But little V values are goals. There's nothing wrong with combining them, but you need to know the difference. And here's the test for everybody that's listening.
Mhm.
Go to your bank account and take a look at where you're spending, how much you're spending, what you're spending it on. Now go to your calendar and see where you're allocating your time. That reflects your money values.
Yeah.
So you may say, I want to support a mission in someplace for deserving children, and I want to be able to donate a lot of money to that. But
Yeah.
I look at your calendar and I look at your checkbook, the
They
money
say
is
something
going
different.
to maybe play golf.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't begrudge you either, but you probably can't have both. So you
Definitely.
may say your value is taking care of the kids, but in
Mhm.
reality, your value is playing all the best golf courses in the United States.
Mm.
There's
That's
nothing
interesting.
wrong with either one of those, but you need to know what it is and be very honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Does that make
Good.
sense?
It makes sense. It's
Okay.
quite logical. Yeah.
Once you understand your values
Mhm.
and they're unique to you, if you have a spouse or partner and you have this discussion, it's not unusual to look at each other and go, I did not know that was important to you
Uh-huh.
because you've never gone that deep.
And we don't have to just assume that what I love is what my partner loves.
All right. Or
And where
culture.
what my culture wants me to spend my money on is what I personally want automatically. It's not automatically. I got to
Bingo.
have my own values.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And you can see how this becomes so complicated with social media
Yeah.
and reality TV. We did a
Mhm.
study a few years back that one of the reasons everybody decided they needed to redo their kitchen and have stainless steel appliances because when reality TV started, there were some shows about flipping houses and everybody was putting these magnificent kitchens in with stainless steel appliances. And everybody decided non-consciously that our kitchen that was fine for years is no longer satisfactory and we need to replace everything with stainless steel.
Based on what they've seen, and they change their behavior towards money.
Based on culture, peer group pressure, and the like. And we all kind of got in line and did it.
Mhm.
So that's the new norm. And
Okay.
it changes monthly. Okay, once you figure your values, the next is money temperament. Money
Mhm.
temperament goes back to how you're naturally wired. This is your
Okay.
feeling brain stuff. You don't even know this is going on.
Uh-huh.
There are a number of what are called biased or heuristics with the way we deal with money, both emotionally and cognitively. In the book, I just start with just 3 very easy ones. Are you a
Okay.
spender or saver?
Mhm.
I don't care. Now, we tend to be judgmental, particularly as financial advisors. We think everybody should be a saver, not a spender. Well, that's my bias, not your bias. There's nothing wrong with being a spender as long as you understand it and you take steps to keep it under control. So the other things that are important to you, your values are taken care of.
Yeah.
spender saver. So
Mhm.
if the valet at Nordstrom's knows your name and knows the license plate of your car because you're there a couple of days a week,
Mhm.
spending a boatload of money, that's okay if you plan for it.
Okay.
So you can be dysfunctional as a spender. You can be out of control. We know
Uh-huh.
that, but you can also be dysfunctional as a saver.
Ah, that's
Too much
interesting.
saving, too much going at the expense of your family. You're not feeding them. You're not doing things. You're not doing your responsibilities.
Uh-huh.
In my book, I work in the middle with the average. Most people are not outliers. If you're an outlier, that's a clinical problem. You need some help. I'm not going to worry about you. But most people, they spend a little bit, maybe a little too much. They save, maybe not enough, or maybe a little bit too much. That's not the point. You need to know what you are. And all it is emotionally, this is what gives you satisfaction. I
Yeah.
enjoy the emotional satisfaction, the dopamine hit of spending money. I enjoy the emotional satisfaction of saving money and watching my account grow. I enjoy that dopamine hit. And
Yeah.
I don't understand why my partner who likes to spend and that's their dopamine hit does not understand and like my dopamine hit, which is saving money. Conflict.
Uh-huh.
That's money temperament.
Yeah.
So it's what I talk about in the book is spender saver, maximizer, sufficer. A maximizer is the person that wants to get the last benefit out of everything they buy.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is right. It's going to be better and better and better.
Okay.
As opposed to a sufficer, which is the 85% solution person.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the people, it's a compromise, but what I mean by the, nothing is good. They buy a car, they take it back 9 times because there was dust on the dashboard. There was a small crack and scratch in the back, as opposed to the sufficer goes, that scratch was going to get there eventually. Anyhow, I don't care.
Yeah, they are
Two
okay.
different ways of looking at money and outcomes. And then the
Uh-huh.
last piece is risk. When I
Okay.
talk about risk, I talk about emotional risk, not the pain of losing money, not stock market risk.
Uh-huh.
Okay, what I mean by that is we as humans are wired to feel emotional pain about 4 times more than emotional gain.
Mm-hmm.
So some people are hypersensitive to losing money, and that
Okay.
influences your decision making. My
Yeah.
dad was a good example. He would sit and yell at the TV, being very concerned about that his accounts were losing money and call me up. He was my worst client,
Okay.
without a doubt. And I have to tell him, Dad, it's okay. You don't even own any of this stuff. What you're watching on TV does not impact you.
Mhm.
But he did not see it that way. He
Yeah.
emotionally was impacted by what he perceived to be a threat. That's what I
Okay.
mean by emotional risk. Okay, so
Uh-huh.
now you've got your values and your temperament. I know I am. Now the next piece is called money knowledge.
Yeah.
Money knowledge is not technical knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Technical knowledge is easy. You can
Yeah.
figure that out a lot of different ways. What I'm talking about is how do you process information?
Okay.
How are you a visual learner? Are you an auditory learner? Are you a hands-on type of person? Because how you process information is critical to your ability to make good decisions. And you have to understand in the financial services industry, we have a bias towards numbers. We want to give you spreadsheets. We want to give you piles of paper. We want to get you into the details. Part of that is required by compliance and laws, but part of it is just the way we're wired. There's some advisors that have never seen a spreadsheet they didn't like. And every solution is another spreadsheet or another product. But if you're not wired like that, you're not going to understand it. So you've got to take control and go, time out.
Okay.
Show me a picture. What do you mean? Tell me again in words that I can understand.
In simple terms.
Um,
Yeah.
you've got to be able to put yourself in a position of authority to go, stop.
Okay.
I'm paying you good money, or this is a very significant problem, or this is a consequential money decision. I need to make sure the information I'm getting is what I need to make a good decision. And
Mm-hmm.
if I'm a visual learner, give me pictures, give me graphs. If I'm an auditory learner, tell me in a way that I can process it effectively. And
Yeah.
if I'm a digital tactile guy, yeah, give me the spreadsheets. But most people are visual. So the things I just described, money values, money temperament, and money knowledge, the way I define it, are what are missing from the traditional financial planning process.
Yeah.
The traditional process is, hey, you're here. let me show you three things. This did well this year. This one did this year. And this has got a pretty picture. And look at the golf course picture we gave you and the sailboat and all this. Don't you want one of these? Which has nothing to do with the product or your needs with regard to values, temperament, and the way you process information.
Ah.
And then in the industry, we just see if I just give you more data, you're going to take a good decision, which is ridiculous. So
Yeah.
the next piece of the model is money strategy. The money strategy you build has to be, it's the bird's eye view or the 30,000, 100,000 foot view of where you want to be financially through your life.
Okay.
First, it has to reflect your values, your money values.
Yeah.
But your strategy must incorporate your temperament and your money knowledge,
Your money
how you
knowledge.
process
Yeah.
information.
Okay.
So with that tools, now you can build a program that works for you.
Uh-huh.
Remember, the financial services industry is fixated on a one size fits all approach. And this is dangerous.
Yeah, it can work for everyone the same
Right.
thing.
Not only in the financial industry, but social media makes this much more difficult
Uh-huh.
because we're herding animals. We like being with people just like us. We
Yeah.
like to hear things that confirm our biases and our point of view and our values. Therefore, if you're in a chat group and everybody goes, buy GameStop, buy fill in the blank, because everybody's doing it, it's very easy to have this herding mentality and we all go out and do that, but you don't know if it supports your values. You don't know if it supports your temperament. And probably the information is not processed, given to you in a way that you can interpret it. So you make an emotional decision that is consequential, that may be okay, but may be disastrous. Make sense? So that's your strategy.
It does. It does.
As a financial advisor, here's another example. I had a client come in a number of years ago, and we're
Okay.
talking about long-term care insurance. I don't care how you think about that product, but there are different types of long-term care insurance. One is designed that when you're making a claim, you have to itemize everything, write it down, and then they reimburse you. The other one says we don't care about the itemizing. We'll just give you money on a monthly basis. You can do anything you want with it. Well, if we're going to give you money and do anything you want with it, that policy costs more, but it's easier to manage.
Uh-huh.
So I had a client a few years ago and I came in and I knew him because I did his financial profile. I knew his behavioral financial wellness. I knew how he thought and feel about money, his temperament, how he processed information. And I recommended to him that he have we're going to give you one check when you go on claim. It cost a little bit more. And he called me out on it. And I said, here it is. Here's the deal. The reason I recommended this strategy is because I know how you think and feel about money. You can't balance a checkbook now. You've never done a budget. You don't know where your money's going. When you're 95 years old on claim, what makes you think you're going to be able to walk through the process of itemizing your monthly and weekly claims, submit them accurately to get paid?
That's
You need a
impossible.
check that shows up in your checkbook like clockwork, and you don't have to worry about it. You're right. That's what I mean. And that's the difference between selling you something or aligning a solution with your temperament. Make sense?
Yeah.
And then the last piece is your money plan, which is the actual products and services that you're going to purchase and manage that are going to be part of your strategy that reflect your money knowledge, your money temperament to help you achieve your money values. That's a money behavior system.
Okay. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful, really wonderful. I mean, we are getting some very insightful points here. Money values, money temperament, money knowledge, now money strategy and the money plan. Oh, we are moving on well.
Exactly.
We are moving on well.
Let me add you in one other thing. I've traveled all over the world. I've worked with people from many different cultures, not only on active duty, but also as a financial advisor.
Okay.
And what I'm finding is what I just described to you is the money behavior system transcends ethnicity. It transcends nationality, geographic location. It works for people, human. It
Yeah.
deals with the humanity of how we process information. So when I'm talking, like yesterday, I was on a call to a group from India and we're talking the same thing.
Okay.
India has one of the fastest growing middle classes in the world,
Yeah.
lots of money, but
Mm-hmm.
they're going through the same dynamics that we're going through here,
Mm-hmm.
that you're going through with your family, but it's influenced by their culture. There are
Okay.
cultural norms and cultural checkpoints and triggers that are going to direct what their money values are, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But at the basic level, the money temperament level, we're all alike. We're human and we're
Yeah.
going to do human things with money, as stupid as it sounds to a third party, but it made great sense at the time of the purchase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, let me ask you a question. With all this information, this enlightenment that you're bringing onto us right here, uh, and you mentioned about there's no boundary to the cultures. I mean, every part of the world should be knowing this. I believe that you've worked with a wide range of people, groups of people, and different ages.
Right.
What would you suggest, or whom would you suggest this book or this information should be going to right now?
Well, it's appropriate really for anybody that spends money.
Okay.
I do a lot of work with professionals that are
Mhm.
frustrated with the traditional um, orthodoxy in the financial literacy or the financial planning industry, and they want to move to a behavioral practice. So I work with
Okay.
them and help them train and set up a behavioral practice. But on the other side, I work with, just real people.
Yeah.
And on my website, tedmclyman.com, I've got a free course. I've got a collection of exercises and training that we can go along with this. But fundamentally, who am I looking for? I'm
Yeah.
looking for people that intuitively know that business as usual is not working.
Mm-hmm.
They know they should have a one size fits you approach to their financial plan, and they're frustrated with the one size fits all because they know it's not working. Intuitively, they know it's not working. They're not happy with it. They don't understand it. And incidentally, that's why most financial plans fail, or more,
Mm-hmm.
or many are not even executed because
Yeah.
they're not aligned.
Uh-huh.
So who is this for? If you're in a position that you know you have to make consequential money decisions, I always recommend that you read this book before you buy a house, before you buy a car, you do something significant.
Okay.
If you've got young people, I think this book is appropriate. It's written at a level and it's a story. It's a story about going back and forth to the mall. It's a story about just people interacting and doing things with money.
Ah,
This is
we love
appropriate for,
stories.
yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Each chapter has a vignette.
Okay.
And through the entire book, I weave this story of this one person going from making very bad spending decisions to
Mm.
now I get it.
Okay.
By discovering their belief set, by
Okay.
discovering their money temperament, by
Mm-hmm.
defining their values, et cetera, et cetera. So at the end of the book, they go, huh, wow, I get it. So this book I think this should be a must read for recent high school and college graduates.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
if they're like me, they never had a course in financial literacy. Um, if they did take one, it was all technical, how to open a checking book, how
yeah.
to figure present value, how to do an
Mm-hmm.
investment, which is meaningless because you have to also understand that all the products and services out there are now a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got the same thing,
Yeah, sure.
but everybody's selling it that my stuff is better than your stuff.
Uh,
Fundamentally, it's not. At the core level, it's the same stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What is important is understand your temperament, manage your behavior, and then your money. That's what you need to understand. So I'm on a mission to launch a movement, if you will, with a
Okay.
new discussion of money,
Ah.
that it's all about behavioral financial wellness, which begins with understanding and embracing your temperament and be proud that that's who it is, what it is. And I don't care what it is, we're not judging. We have this habit in our culture to judge people because I want to impose my biases and my point of view on it. I can't tell you how many times I get a call from a car dealer that says, Ted, you need a vehicle that supports your station in life.
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, what is my station in life? I'm not a car guy. I
Very
drive
good.
a used 2008 Mercury Mariner with 180,000 miles on it.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I don't care. Okay, and if you're uncomfortable, the problem is with you, not me.
Yeah.
Well, part of it is because I'm a cyclist. I do triathlons. I carry stuff around. I beat the car up. You leave a wetsuit in the back of a car in August, you'll understand why I drive a used car. Okay. So
Okay.
if I need a car, you know where I can get a car if I need to impress somebody?
Yeah.
I rent one for an afternoon. Or you call somebody up with an Uber and they come
Okay.
get you. Okay.
Uh,
That's me. Now,
mhm.
if you want a car that reflects your station in life, that's cool. But that because your value set is not transportation, it's
It can be
prestige.
like mine. Your value set is not as well as mine is. I mean,
Exactly,
it's
exactly. And
different.
I'm
It
not
has to be
judging.
different. Yeah. And we don't judge
Somebody's
each other.
buying $80,000, $90,000 automobiles. They're
Mhm.
buying them for their reason to support their values. I don't judge that.
Yeah.
You just need to understand the opportunity cost of a $90,000 automobile is $90,000 that's not working for you someplace else. Fine.
Uh-huh.
You made your choice,
Yeah, sure.
but you're accountable and responsible in the final analysis for every decision you make or fail to make with money.
Yeah, and thank you because you remind us that it doesn't have to be about what I'm doing right now. It's not about what I'm going to eat tomorrow, but looking at the far end of your life. I mean, you
Right.
have to be very considerate of it.
Yeah, and true to yourself. I
Mhm.
mean, in a perfect world, I would have people read this book, and the first thing they ask their financial advisor, banker, accountant, or the person in the carpool to begin with, do you know who I am? Do you know my money temperament? How do I know what you're talking about is appropriate for me? It
Yeah.
might be technically correct, but it is appropriate for me based on my money temperament, my
Hmm.
money values, and my money knowledge. And in
Wow.
most cases, they're not.
Yeah, definitely because he's different. You are different. Everyone is different.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
embrace it.
Mhm. Wow, 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 wow. Thank you very much. It's beautiful. And what do you say about the money temperament on wealth? I mean, now you're talking about
Okay, good
money.
question. This
Yeah,
is excellent. What we're talking about pretty much is just baselining who you are. And if you were fortunate enough to grow up in an environment where wealth as opposed to money was the conversation, and it's a different conversation. A
hmm,
wealth mindset is different than a money mindset.
yeah,
Most people grow up having a money mindset, which is spending,
hmm,
which is going, getting stuff, acquiring stuff, regardless of their value, long-term value, which is accumulating wealth.
hmm,
If you were fortunate to grow up in a family where wealth was part of your culture and it was multi-generational, you have a very different mindset.
yeah,
So all I'm saying is that you've got an obligation that once you understand your money temperament to have what I call situational awareness.
hmm,
When you go into a spending situation which is important or consequential, buying a car, buying a house, a major investment, you've got to stop, force yourself from your feeling brain to your thinking brain and understand why you're doing what you're doing.
hmm,
A wealth mindset means that you take consequential decisions very, very seriously. You take the time to move from feeling brain to thinking brain, and you put it in perspective of your long-term strategy. Your
okay,
strategy is means that I need to be taking care of things over multiple years, maybe multiple generations.
hmm,
And if I'm spending just for today, you're rolling the dice because you could have there's so much risk out there that you have no control over. And you might get out there sometime and go, I should have done something a little bit differently. That's not going to happen. A
yeah,
wealth mindset means that you're doing things that work for you, that maintain their worth,
hmm,
do not depreciate.
yeah,
So you're looking at, and it doesn't mean you can't reward yourself, you can't have fun, you can't spend money.
yeah.
It means you do it proportionally.
Yeah, the bigger percentage should be the one that does not depreciate in value, but increase. I mean, if it doesn't increase, it doesn't at least to bring you down. Yep.
Yeah,
Hmm.
let's talk about, and this is difficult today's culture because the internet, Instagram, Facebook, and whatever are constantly bombarding you with pictures of
Yeah.
what our culture perceives to be wealth.
Hmm.
Most of the pictures that I look at are about money.
Mm-hmm.
You just go through Instagram and there are all kinds of pictures with programs to make you wealthy, and they show planes and cars and all that kind of good stuff. Well, that's less than 1% of the population even gets to that level.
Yeah.
And what you're really going to end up doing is probably spending a lot of money that you don't have to achieve something you're probably not going to get using a program you can't afford.
Mm-hmm.
So part of that is, wait a minute, what are we talking about? And it comes back to values. What is important? We know, here's another example. We know biologically, or the psychology is that you're going to be happier being in the middle to the upper third of your peer group if you're more like than being in other words, it's better to be in the middle or a little bit higher of
Okay.
people just like you than it is
Uh-huh.
to be the person at the lower end, at the top end of the neighborhood, and you can't afford to live there. Does that make
Uh-huh.
sense? In other
Yeah.
words, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, everybody, the neighborhood, everybody, the average house costs $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you scrape to get there, and you find out, I'm not as happy being the only guy in the block in $1 million house when everybody else's house is five. You're better off in a neighborhood where the average price of the house is 500,000, and you're living in one at six.
Okay.
See what I mean? It's
Yes.
all
Yes.
relative, but we
Yes.
can even take it below that. You say you may be happier in a house that costs $100,000, and that's the average price of the neighborhood. That's the culture. That's the strata, and yours costs 1.25.
Mm-hmm.
That's the psychology of money. It's the way we process information. We also know that for most people, if you're netting about $75,000 a year, you're pretty comfortable and you're pretty happy.
Wow. So our behavior system is always and affected by whom we are in contact with. I mean, I'm gonna look at and is affected
Absolutely.
mostly. What I see here is affected negatively if we don't take charge of ourselves.
Yes. And
Yeah.
it's also easy to get sucked in with the flash, the
Yeah.
shiny. I mean, we're wired to go after the shiny. That's what we
Mhm.
do as humans.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, think about it. If you're a commuter and you're driving to work every day, you don't really consciously understand how you got to work.
Mm-hmm.
It's not until you see something happen, a blue light, an accident, that alerts, and you do alert on that because that's an
Mm-hmm.
instinct to keep us alive.
Yeah.
And it's very quick. We make decisions in milliseconds. We make judgments in milliseconds.
Mm-hmm.
So all I'm saying is, yeah, have a life, enjoy yourself, but you need to do an assessment based on, again, what's important about money to you. How
Uh-huh.
do you process information, which is nothing more than how do I learn, and then how do I naturally think and feel about money, my temperament. Once I understand that, it's much easier to lay out a strategy that is going to make me comfortable, which is a one size fits you approach, as opposed to, I need to be just like the people in the big houses at the end of the street because they got a big car and they got a golf course thing and they got this, that, and the other thing. And okay, but you don't play golf. So why worry about that?
Mm-hmm. Ah, wonderful. So, to all those who are listening, those who are watching this show, it's time to discover your money temperament, not just go with the wind and be swayed from left to right, in order that you may plan for your day-to-day living and also your future. Remember that you have got several years to go. If nothing happens along the way, you need to sit down and come out from the hunter-gatherer age and start thinking creatively about your money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Yeah,
again, this is the book. It's available on Amazon
yeah,
in hard copy, soft copy, and electronic. And
yes.
again, you can learn more about this at my website. It's just tedmclyman.com, TEDMCLYMAN.com.
So thank you very much, Ted. But before you go, you can tell us a few last words, a parting shot. So that's what we call it.
Remember, we
Yeah.
like stories, not numbers. We tend to collaborate our decisions through confirmation with people that think just like us, as opposed to finding somebody that try to talk us out of it. We
Uh-huh.
are emotional animals who think money is hard for us, and we will always, always act human with our money.
Oh, Thank you very much, Ted. It's been a beautiful thing having you in our show. We really appreciate everything that you've poured onto us today, even before we go get your book. But we are going to get it in order that we may get much more of the stories you did not tell us.
Very much.
So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anthony, and to your listeners. Thanks for being here.
And thank you for those who are watching, those who are going to watch the recorded version. Thank you very much. And stay tuned.